Uh, it's time for the second tutorial on NoodleTools. Today we'll be learning to take notes and how that works through the NoodleTools interface. So there I go, getting a little smaller. And we can be in our NoodleTools project. There's my test iSearch project. Yours is called iSearch most likely. And of course we've used these top tabs up here. The dashboard tells us about the project and whose inboxes we are linked with. So hopefully you're linked with mine. Sources, now we know the sources. We've added sources to our project. So any source that NoodleTools knows you're using for your iSearch project will be listed here in alphabetical order. And today we're going to actually be looking at the Notecards tab. We're going to start taking notes on some of our sources. So clicking on that tab will bring you to this screen. This is considered a tabletop. If you look, I've already got notes here. Yours will be blank the first time you come here. They look like little index cards. In the old days, when you are taking notes, one note per index card. And on the index card, you need to write down what source it came from. So if you have your index card over here or over here, you can always know what source it came from, where the information came from. And then you have your note. And then you also want to categorize it in what is this about? What's the big idea? Where does this fit in the scheme of my paper? And that would also go on the note card. Well, NoodleTools has a way of doing that electronically. So it's asking us in green, go ahead, man, to have a new note card. So here is our quasi 3x5 note card. It asks us for a title. Early on in this process, you might not know exactly what to title your card. You might not know what category does this go in, exactly where does this fit into my project. You're just kind of gathering information. So even though it's the first box, it's not the most important box. Probably the most important box is which source is this coming from. So here is a list of anything that appears in my NoodleTools source list. I'm going to take a note from this study that I wanted to read first. Study finds teens can't yet multitask. And I've been reading that in another window over here, and I found some information that I think is very important. It's very relevant to what I'm looking for, and I've actually copied a quote directly from the article, and I'm pasting it in here. See, in the box it says direct quotation. So you may, in your final paper, end up using the direct quotation, and you would put it in quotes and cite it and be sure to give reference to where it came from. But more than likely, you're not going to use exactly what the article said. You're going to put it into your own words and use your own paraphrase. And in order to really fully engage in your content, you need a paraphrase or summary. You need to run it through your brain into your own words to really learn about this topic, to really start to own the content of all of your research. So I'm going to paraphrase it, put this in my own words. Now the quote says, when we use tasks that would be challenging even for a healthy adult, it becomes apparent that teenagers are still developing the cognitive skills necessary to efficiently manage multiple pieces of information simultaneously. It's a lot of words, but I've been thinking about my topic a little bit, and I've read the whole article, so I know how to think about this. And to me, the big idea, the important part here that we break down is that, say, since there's my paraphrase. And that's what I think the quote really means to me in the way that I think about it. And now this next section says my ideas. What else does that mean? Well, I've got sort of bells going off in my head, things that I hadn't really thought about yet. I know a little bit about the prefrontal cortex. We know a little bit about the prefrontal cortex from our look at the adolescent brain. That's going to be important to study, and maybe that's going to be a keyword that I use to look up later on. When I kind of exhaust all my avenues of research down this way, I've kind of got other keywords in my brain, other topics that I might run down and chase those leads down and see where they can go, see where those leads take me. So that's just kind of a bullet list here. Let's see. I'm thinking about impulse control and multitasking, and I'm thinking about distractions. That impulse control makes me think of distractions. So now I've got a few ideas. Now, you can tag this, tags, when you are sorting information. You can have 1 tag, 2 tags, 3 tags. And if I'm pretty sure that this has to do with teenagers, I think that'll be a tag. And I can add more than 1 tag if I want, but as soon as I have a tag, it starts to show up over here. So love and squirrels, you saw that. I'm going to save this card. And I just want to show you that, okay, it showed up over here. It's called Untitled 1 because I never did give it a title. Maybe I ought to. Let's call it Developing Cognition. And now that I've reopened it, you can kind of see that teens tag that I just created is now among this list. So once you create a tag, it will appear in this list so that you can just populate it. If I think that this is about teens and squirrels, I could have chosen that as a tag as well. It's not really about love, but I'm just showing you how the different tags that appear here, you can just pop over there. So now I'm going to re-save that note. Here it is on my tabletop, Developing Cognition, and that's great. Now, as you use this tabletop, you can lose your cards. This box here represents the entire tabletop, and you're only seeing this box here on your screen. So as I move it over here, I'm going to start to see my notes appear. There they go, and they went right on by. So if you think that if you're looking for pieces that you know you have, but you don't see them on your screen, don't panic. They're there. What you can do is really spread out your notes. This is like literally if you had note cards on a tabletop, you could really spread them out big time. And for people who are very tactile, this is a virtual way to try to replicate that. The other thing that it allows you to do is say, like, hey, you know, this teens can't multitask in the Developing Cognition. I think that those are going to go really close together in my paper. I know that those are going to go side by side in my paper. I think I'm going to make those into a pile. And if you drag it and stack it, you have an option to make a new pile. I'm going to call this pile Teen Cognition. Call it whatever you'd like. And now you have a pile. The icon looks a little bit different. Looks like there's more than 1 card there. And you've actually made a pile of notes. Eventually, when we're ready to write and organize the whole thing, we're going to really try to break down iSearch into 8 to 12 piles of notes. A pile of notes, and try to write it in chunks. So each pile is kind of a chunk of your paper. Maybe it's 2 pages. Maybe it's a page and a half. It doesn't really matter the quantity that it is. It's a chunk of paper of ideas that are related to each other. Now, the other thing you can do from this screen, now that you've taken your notes, you've got a few notes, maybe you've got notes in piles, maybe not. You can also click on this detail icon, and this is more a linear way of thinking about it. Now, most of my cards, these 2 cards are not in piles yet. It's fine. I don't know how they relate to anything else I've got. They're just pieces of information. We're still gathering information here. They don't need to be in piles. They don't need to have tags necessarily. Just if we know what those piles are, how they're related, what the tags are, then you apply them. And I can close the little window. So all my unpiled cards I can see there. Here are 2 cards that I put in a pile under Love Mess. That was for a different demonstration. And here are the 2 that you saw me put into piles under Teen Cognition. They are right there. I can see those cards. I can close that pile if this list gets way too big, or I can deal just with that pile, and I can move it to a different pile. Probably there's a different way to do that. I'll have to figure that out. And I can look more closely at these cards in that way. So I thought, yeah, there we go. If you just click on it once, I was double clicking. Click on it once, and it gives you a blow up of the card, the information that you put on it. That's a bad note because it was just an example, but here's the note you just saw me take. And there it is as a note card. I can see right on it where the source is that it came from. I can see the title, and I can see the day that I worked on it. You ought to know that since your project is shared with me, I can see the dates that you worked on it as well. I can see the number of cards you have, the type of notes that you're taking. Expect for me to say, hey, you're being very thorough with your notes, or hey, you know, you're putting a lot of direct quotes down, you're copying and pasting a lot, but you're really not running this through a paraphrase very much. That's the most important part. Maybe you should be doing that a little bit better. It allows me to kind of see where you are and help you with what you need help with. Some students don't need any help. They just kind of get it, and I look at their stuff and I say, good job. Those conferences will often be me asking you about what you're learning, because a really good way to show what you're learning, a really good way to make sure that you're absorbing what you're reading is A, can I paraphrase the content in my note card? And B, can I talk about it? Can I sit there and tell Mr. Prince a really cool thing I learned this week? If you can do that, then I know that you're not just doing the research that you're supposed to be doing, but you're actually absorbing the research and it's rattling around in your brain, so you'll be very well able to synthesize ideas and put them together. That's the goal. All right, 10 note cards is your checkpoint, so just like that, that's what I expect to see next time.